Welcome to the Digital Determinants Podcast, where we delve into the complex, systemic reasons behind the presence of digital inequity and the challenges surrounding digital adoption within communities comprising generations from the Great Migration. This podcast will explore the impact of trust on digital participation, the implications of digital discrimination, and the unique challenges faced by descendants of the Great Migration in embracing digital technologies. Join us as we unravel the historical, social, and technological factors contributing to this phenomenon and explore potential solutions to bridge the digital divide and promote inclusive digital adoption. Hello, welcome to the Digital Determinants Podcast. I'm your host, Kyla Williams-Tate, and I'm so excited to be here to share today's story in episode 8, which the title is Workarounds and Wounds, Surviving the Great Migration and the Digital Divide. And this story that I'm going to share today and the information I'm going to share today, it's really personal, right? Because it almost jumps into my own digital equity story and my family's migration even closer. So this story is the creative ways that Black people show up online and the quiet ways that we back away from it. And we have a good reason to do that. So it's about the workaround and the wounds, hence the title. So let me take you back for a second. Not too far. Maybe it's my grandparents' generation because my grandmother did migrate over from Mississippi. Maybe it's your great-grandparents' generation. So picture Chicago, 1942. It's cold outside, y'all, because it's always cold outside. At least that's how I feel. If you're coming to Debt Inclusion 2026 in February 2026, which will be in Chicago, it likely will be cold. So get you a hat and some mittens and a scarf so that you can be warm, but that you can still be present because we want to see your faces in the place for sure. So, Chicago, 1942. It's cold outside, maybe a light snow. You're in Bronzeville, a few blocks from the L train station. We call our public transportation the L. Inside of a small apartment, the furniture's been pushed to the walls. Someone's got a saxophone. Someone else is frying fish in the back. And I love me some good fried fish, y'all. Whew, some good fried catfish. Mm-hmm. You paid a quarter to get in. That quarter is going towards this month's rent. These were rent parties, not just a good time, but a survival tactic, born from Black folks being shut out of steady wages, bank loans, and affordable housing. It was a workaround. It was community care. It was economy in motion. If you were cutting hair, cooking meals, shining shoes, or sewing dresses, you were part of the informal economy. And if you came up during the Great Migration, you knew that the system wasn't designed for you. It didn't take people long when they came up from the South to places like Chicago, that there were systems designed for them to fail. So, as all innovators, you design around the system. Now let's go to Cleveland. Let's travel to Glenville or Collinwood or Fairfax. During the Great Migration, Cleveland became a destination for Black families looking for factory work, especially in the steel and auto industries. But discrimination still followed them. Employers would hire Black workers last and fire them first. So people started turning to each other. Black women set up informal beauty salons in their kitchens. Men turned to their porches and turned those porches into barbershops. Folks ran catering businesses out of tiny homes. My grandmother did that. And the porch, that was the internet before the internet. That's where people swapped job leads, passed down wisdom, warned each other about shady landlords or police raids. It wasn't formal, but it was fast. It was trusted. It belonged to Black people in those communities. That same instinct to build trusted networks outside of systems is alive today in how people share passwords, split bills on Cash App, or text each other about low-cost Wi-Fi programs. We've always known if the institution won't let you in, you got to make a network of your own. Now jump with me across the country to the West Coast, Los Angeles, 1960. Leimert Park, Watts, South Central. Out west, the Great Migration looked a little different. People came for military jobs, aerospace, port work, but still found themselves boxed into segregated neighborhoods, denied loans, and pushed out of white spaces. So they got creative. Workaround. People sold frozen cups and homemade tamales. Moms braided hair in backyards. Teens cleaned neighborhood cars after school. Leimert Park became a hub for black art, music, and street vending. Culture and commerce, hand in hand. Even now, you'll find street entrepreneurs selling shea butter, books, incense, tech accessories, all from a folding table with QR codes taped to the front. The grind has gone digital, but the soul and the need is still the same. These and those are early economic ecosystems, and they were not just about income, they were about identity, about being seen, about not waiting for permission. The Great Migration wasn't just a change in location. It was a shift in identity, in risk, in how black folks navigated systems. When the 6 million or more black Americans left the South between 1916 and 1970, fleeing racial terror, economic exploitation, and disenfranchisement, they just didn't land in freedom. They landed in a different kind of maze that they had to learn how to navigate, which again, I spoke a lot about resilience in episode 7. This type of resilience just continues to amaze me, because even me thinking about relocating from Chicago and going someplace right now is overwhelming, and I have access to resources and technical tools, but to think about how to establish myself into a new community at this point in my life with my family and all these other things I got going on, it seems overwhelming, which is why I gotta stay put, because I'm purpose in staying put, y'all. So let me be clear, I ain't trying to go nowhere. I love my job and I love what I do, and I want to continue to do it for as long as I am allowed. So cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Pittsburgh held promise, but also held policies that box black people in: redlining, school segregation, job discrimination, and over policing. Some of that, all of that, still kind of happening in 2025. In these new places, black people still had to find a way through. So they created community. They shared information in beauty shops and churches. They leaned on neighbors and extended kin. Went into survival mode. They just went into survival mode. Communal, informal, adaptive. They just didn't help people get through the migration. Those skills, the type of resilience, the problem solving, the workarounds, that got passed down because it was the only way that black people were able to live and have some decency of a quality of life as permissed by the systems that surrounded them. When we talk about digital inequity today, we can't separate it from the lineage. It's not new. It's just a modern expression of inherited exclusion and inherited ingenuity. Now come back with me. It's today. Same city, different tools. Scroll through Instagram and you'll see the modern rent party. Plates for sale, wigs on deck, lashes, t-shirts, tarot card readings, beads and braids, all digitally marketed. All part of the same survival instinct passed down across generations. We got black creators monetizing reels, grandbabies helping their elders set up Zelle, some folks using WhatsApp to run family businesses across states and even countries, shared Wi-Fi plans and VPNs. It's not always clean. It's not always easy. But for black people, it's the way. Adapting, working around the systems that are created to keep us from surviving, from being prosperous from thriving in the economic society. This is the legacy of the workaround. But here's where the story splits. Because while some of us are out here surviving and even thriving through these digital workarounds, there are so many others that are stuck. Not because they aren't smart, not because they aren't willing, but because the wound runs so deep. I've spoken to elders who don't trust telehealth, my mama included. Not because they don't need care, my mama included, but because no one explained how to log in or the system glitched one too many times in my mama's case. And she's like, I ain't going back on the internet. I know you told me that it's safe. I know you told me it was a trusted connection. And yes, I could see my doctor on the other end of the screen, but I'm not doing that no more because the system glitched. And she was like, oh, now the world knows my health issues. And that just sent her down a untrustworthy rabbit hole that she is not ready to come back out of. And I don't blame her because we don't really understand how our information is being used fully. I don't know that when they say your information is trusted and blah, 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 and the fine print about your privacy, and we continue to hear about all the privacy breaches, these trusted security measures that are being taken are actually working. I have doubts too. I have concerns too. I know parents who refuse to apply for digital benefits because they're afraid of fraud. They are overwhelmed by broken websites, worried that one wrong click could lose their housing. Now, when you are living in an affordable housing situation, or even a non-affordable housing situation, I have several colleagues of mine, because the rent is skyrocketing, that they've had to make some decisions about like where they're going to live next. So, and that's based on their income. And we're just not rich. I know I'm not. So every moment, every step that you make around your housing, around your automobiles or your modes of transportation, a lot of us are 1 or 2 paychecks away from not having anything. So that one wrong click is a very real fear. There are people in our community, some young and many old, who've been burned by bad digital experiences or have never had the digital literacy support that they needed to begin with. So they opt out quietly and painfully. And the world continues to evolve around them, and the technology evolving even faster, and they are excluded. They're not even considered. The digital divide isn't just about access, it's about trust and trauma. So how do we hold space for both? How do we honor the innovation while acknowledging the injury? The workaround and the wound come from the same place, believe it or not. So now I'm going to put on my social worker hat. Y'all do know I'm a social worker, huh? I'm not a technologist. I'm a social worker who does technology because I'm just interested in the space and I geek around and I'm a big old nerd. But my background is actually in human services. So the workaround and the wound come from the same place. The need to survive systems that weren't built for some of us. Can we acknowledge that there are systems that were not built to support some of us? And by us in this episode, I'm talking about the Black people. This is not excluding the other folks that the systems haven't been built for. But because my research project is rooted in the Great Migration, my lens is the Black experience. So during the Great Migration, Black people were left out of jobs, out of mortgages, out of school systems, and they had to build something anyway, in spite of. That same spirit lives on today in our digital lives. But we can't let the innovation blind us to the isolation. Just because someone in the family can post on TikTok doesn't mean grandma's okay when she's asked to schedule her surgery or her doctor's appointment or request her medication online. Just because a young cousin is coding, it doesn't mean that the whole household has Wi-Fi. We need to get better at seeing the full picture and telling the full truth. We're not just talking about tech either. We're talking about belonging. Digital participation is a mirror. And for many descendants of the Great Migration, the reflection isn't always kind. You can just go to the comment section of most posts, and there's such hate and vitriol against Black people that show up there. It shows us that we weren't taught what we couldn't afford, what hurt us before and continues to hurt us today. But it can also show us what we've built, what we've passed down, what we can redesign. Imagine systems where digital learning feels like the legacy and not the lack, where design is centered on dignity, where the same creativity we use for survival is channeled into building platforms, programs, and policies that truly see us. Do y'all see me? Can y'all see me? We can't bridge the divide by just handing out devices. Now that's important. Don't get me wrong. Super important. And thank you to all of our device distribution partners out there. But we have to rebuild trust. We have to restore confidence. We have to reimagine care. So if you're listening to this and you've ever felt behind, I want you to know it's not just you. It's the system and the systems, complementary, integrated, intersecting. But the story doesn't end there. Black people from our history, and if you've been looking at this podcast or listening to this podcast, I've tried to tell a pretty rich story about what it took to get Black people from the South to the northern states. So Black people are wired for survival, analog or digital. We've always figured out how to make a way out of no way. And if you lived in a Black household, you done heard that phrase for sure. And now the question is, how do we make that way better and together? So that's all for this episode of the Digital Determinants Podcast. It was short and sweet, but I think I said a lot. And I hope that you take that into consideration as you continue to traverse your own digital equity journey, as you continue to steward your own digital equity programming and processes, as you continue to think about why aren't you even talking about digital equity in your places and spaces? Because digital equity and opportunity and access to the internet is a foundation that everything is living on today in the digital society. So if you're not talking about it, ask yourself, why aren't you? And if you want to read the recommendations from this podcast and this episode today, head on over to the Digital Determinants Podcast website, which is digitaldeterminants.com. Click on the recommendations tab, and you'll see all of the 8 now recommendations that I am making as a result of my research project. So in episode 9, because we're wrapping this thing up, we are going to actually talk about what would it look like if the design of digital systems really, truly saw and included Black people. We're going to be talking about design justice and digital dignity and what inclusive tech could be. So until then, keep resisting, keep being resilient, keep reimagining, and keep reclaiming our places and spaces in the digital world equitably. And always, stay connected.